Hello, and welcome to this podcast, Borrow My Belief, which is designed to inspire you to live your dreams. And today I'm so excited. I've got a lovely lady, Kate, on here, who has a brand called Kate in Paradise. She actually mentored me when I was going through some really tough times, and she was totally there for me. And she said to me at that time, Joanne, you can borrow my belief for now. And so was born that saying. So, Kate, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so grateful to be here.
And I want to showcase a bit of your story because if I know anybody who's shown that things are possible, where can we start? Should we start where you were at and what you wanted to do and just let it flow and tell us what you created? Like the manifestation queen, I would call you.
So where do you want to start?
Start, I would say you were sat on your windowsill, I remember looking out. Was it Seattle or somewhere else? And
Yeah.
you had a dream and you made it possible. And what you were thinking at that moment and then how you did it.
Yeah. I mean, that was the beginning of my most recent adventure, which was location freedom. I wanted to be able to take my work with me anywhere in the world and live anywhere that my heart desired. And I had started my business actually 5 years prior and had been maybe 6 years prior and had been sort of like building my list and my coaching business and really struggling because I didn't feel like I believed that I could have location freedom and that I could have this life that I wanted. I was really afraid to let go of a home base. And I had, yeah, home base in Seattle because that's where my mom is from. And I was staying close to her, which felt good at the moment, but I knew like the moment was coming for me. My mom literally said to me, Kate, I'm setting you free. And so that moment was coming and I was like, oh my gosh, like I don't know if I can do it. Like I've been building this business and this brand, everything virtually so that I could literally pick it up and go wherever. And I just didn't feel that certainty and that confidence inside of me. And that time that you're talking about, I remember I was just always focused on what I wanted being so far away and like this dream and this vision being just like out of reach. And there was just this moment on the windowsill. I was watching the sunset and I just said, I'm going to start living as if I'm already there. I'm going to stop, putting it out in the future saying, when I do this or when I finish this or when I'm better at this, then that's going to happen. And I'm just going to start living as if it's happening now. And basically within about 2.5 months, I had sublet my apartment. I was living in Hawaii indefinitely. And then it just began. And I just ended up completely letting go of that home base and just doing my dream of like location freedom. So I just, buy one way flight, rent a short-term rental for a few months. And then if I want to stay, I stay. I continue staying there. If I want to move, I move somewhere else. And so it's a very scary lifestyle. It's definitely not for everybody, but it's some like wild, unconventional dream that I had since I was like 18. Like I had this dream and it was like this process of figuring out how I was going to get there. But though you can figure things out all day, but if you don't have the belief, that it is possible, then it's like you're just going to come up with excuses of, why it can't happen, forever.
So I have two questions for you. The first one is Hawaii is a really warm country, and I know you like to travel to tropical countries. So and I don't perceive that Seattle's like that. So when you were actually there and it was raining or different kind of weather and you weren't actually living that, how did you act as if in that environment, just so people can understand that they can act as if they've already got, it might be someone who wants to run, or it could be anything. They can act as if they've already got it.
Yeah, I remember I used to there was the sun would come in really bright in the afternoon into my apartment. I had these big windows. And I remember there was like this one area where the sun would come and it would get really warm. And I remember like putting out my yoga mat and turning on like the sound of waves, like music, like on YouTube or something, just like the sound of waves, and just sitting there and feeling the warmth of the sun and listening to the waves. Cause like for me, a really big like anchor point was just laying on the beach, like listening to the sound of the waves. Because yeah, I wanted tropical, because I had already lived in Hawaii for 8 years and I loved it, but it was like more than that. I didn't want to just move back to Hawaii. I wanted to be able to like go to Hawaii whenever I want, but leave whenever I want as well. I really wanted this like freedom, but tropical freedom. So
Yeah.
that was like a huge anchor point for me, being in the cold, cloudy, gray winter. It was winter when this happened. It was like November, or I think it was like beginning of November, when I had this like moment that I talked about on the windowsill. So it was like the worst winter months were coming, and but still that sun would come in and I would lay in the warmth and I would listen to the sound of the waves, and I would just say to myself, like, I'm so grateful that I'm here on the beach, and I would just relax, like let my body relax, how you get relaxed when you're laying in the sun. I would just like really embody that
And,
feeling.
and imagine it. And then there comes a point, I know for myself, and I don't know if you'll agree, where you are imagining things and then little things start to happen in your life, and then it's up to you to act, isn't it? And often fear comes up. How do you deal with that fear when you've been imagining, things start to come in, and then it's that moment, isn't it, that you have to kind of jump off the cliff? How do you, I mean, I've watched you do it. How do you deal with those moments?
um I think it's like a couple of things that are really important. Like one is the belief or the trust that everything's happening for you and everything's working out for you. So if I leap and it doesn't end up exactly how I imagined, like that's working for me. If I leap and it turns out like totally different than I imagined, that's working out for me. If it's all options are good options. I think oftentimes we just think if we don't get specifically exactly what we want, that it's like broken or ruined. So that's been really powerful for me in taking the leap, like practicing that belief that everything is happening for me, everything is working out for me. um and it starts to diminish if something goes slightly out of your plan. It's not as big of a deal, because you're like, oh, this could still take me to my end goal, and this is happening for me.
Yeah.
So that was really huge. It helped me like sort of release that attachment. Another thing that has been really huge is not caring what other people think, because a lot of times we do things and we want the confirmation from other people, or it's like we say like, oh, I'm going to go do this, and if it doesn't happen exactly how we say, we're worried what other people will think. Oh, they're going to see me as a failure. Oh, they're going to see that I made a mistake, all this stuff. So it's really huge when you can start to also just release that attachment to how other people perceive you, and not, it doesn't need to mean so much, and it doesn't need to matter so much, and you don't need to please everybody. um and then the last thing, for my personality, like I love adventure, and so just really exploring the idea of the unknown. I love this quote from Dr. Joe Dispenza, and he says, the unknown has never let me down.
Oh,
And you can think about that, like, because it's unknown, how can it let you down? You don't know what it holds. So really like embracing this idea of the unknown, like I literally don't know what's going to happen, and like that's not scary, it's exciting. Another, I don't remember who said this, but another quote that I think of often is like, the only difference between anxiety and excitement is anxiety, except it's with the breath, like you're breathing into that that feeling of anxiety. And then anxiety is sort of the same emotion, but you're just holding the breath and you're constricting. So it's just the constricted version of excitement. So you can sort of look at like scary things as like, this is exciting or this is making me anxious. And it's, you have the conscious choice by connecting with your body and using your breath and really experiencing it as whatever you want to experience it as.
Yeah, as you're speaking, I'm remembering why I had you as a mentor and how much you taught me about mind shifts and beliefs. I wanted to pick up on beliefs again because I know you have a way of flipping your beliefs. You have a way of working out what your beliefs are and then changing those. Could you explain a little bit about that?
Yeah. What I did, it's a practice. So what I did is I really and still do, is like I'll observe the belief, the thoughts that are coming up that are limiting. Like, I'm not qualified enough, I don't have enough experience, I don't know how to do that, or whatever that belief, that thought. We have a lot of the same thoughts over and over and over again as humans. We love to think the same thing over and over again. So your thoughts that are like, people aren't going to take me seriously. That was a huge one that I had for so many years. Or like, I don't trust myself was one that I had for so many years. And so when you start to observe those thoughts, like, okay, this is coming over and over and over again. And then to exactly like what you said, flip it over. So I don't trust myself would become, I trust myself. Or if
Mhm.
that feels too extreme, you could say, I'm learning to trust myself. You could kind of build a bridge to trusting yourself, but just start to notice those. And then what I would do is I had like sort of a list of all my limiting beliefs, and then how I'm reframing them into what I want to believe about myself. Like, I trust myself that I'm making the right decision for myself and everyone that I'm coming into contact with. That was a huge belief for me that I practiced. I practiced that belief. So how do you practice a belief? I literally would review my list every day. I would write it every day. I made audios of me saying it. Many beliefs, but that one was one that was a strong one for me that it took a while to shift. And I would just listen to it. I would write it. And what happens is, because we think the same thoughts and we're habitual creatures, if you practice a belief enough, after a while, it just sort of will like start popping into your head naturally. And you're like, that's weird. That's not a thought that I normally have, but it will start to become part of you. And so it's really a powerful way for you to start to like reprogram some of the thoughts and the beliefs. And there's, this is a big topic and everyone's different. And there might be other healing work and other modalities and things that you need to use around that. But I think just practicing being and thinking like and perceiving the world like the person that we like, quote unquote, wish we were,
Yeah.
is like a surefire way to just become that person. We are our thoughts, we are our beliefs, we are our emotions, and we have the power to shift and dictate those to a certain extent throughout the day.
It's empowering yourself, isn't it? It's going right back to what you said, that you started acting as if, like believing and acting as if. And I've heard that, so I've been around some people who recently would be deemed successful, like multimillionaires, and they'll just all say the same. This, no matter where they go and whatever they do, they still have limiting beliefs. They still have to work on things. And they say that the more successful they get, the bigger their problems get. So until you can learn how to handle things and work with things, you're not going to get the things that you want. It's about working with yourself, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's a really big point, because I think oftentimes we're sold the idea that like, oh, once I like fix this limiting belief or break through this glass ceiling or overcome this obstacle, then everything's going to be easy. But no, as you grow and you succeed, the the stress and the obstacles just become bigger. And so it's more of preparing yourself and building habits around being able to face all of these scary things or these obstacles or these limiting beliefs and know how to work through them. Like, that's really the pathway to like freedom or success or whatever you want to call it, not like fixing yourself so you don't have any problems anymore.
I think that I mean, certainly for me, I'd love to hear your take on this. In doing that, I'm realizing that I've come to really enjoy my journey and be present in my journey. So it doesn't stop me having my goals and wanting these things in the future. And I'm loving my life and loving the day I live in and loving the moments. And as I practice this more, that's what happened. I'd be interested to hear your take on that as well.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like I've fallen in love with the practice of self-awareness and the practice of just observing what's coming up for me. Um, constantly moving and traveling all the time. It's like I'm constantly being presented with like new triggers or new insecurities or new things that I like didn't even know I had. But it's sort of, for me, it's like the most exciting way to live my life.
Yeah.
Because just going through the motions and numbing myself out, like, for me, isn't an option. It's not what my soul came here to do. So for me, like, I'm just diving deep into like all the uncomfortableness, because I know in that and through that there's going to be this like beautiful journey, like you said.
Yeah. So I mean the book that I've written, it's about following your soul and your desire inside. And there might be somebody listening to this thinking, gosh, I don't want to follow that if all this stuff's going to come up. How would you kind of, because it really is worth following your dream. How would you describe why it's worth it compared to where you were at before you started?
I Yeah, that's such a good question. I feel that what has happened for me, and I believe this is possible for anybody, is it's like a spectrum, and it's growing outward in every direction. So you can live in this little bubble and you cannot feel too much pain, but maybe you're also not going to feel like so much like pleasure or fulfillment or excitement or other emotions. It's going to be like limited. It's just going to be a little bit of each thing. And so it's like as you expand, everything becomes possible. As you allow yourself to feel, ooh, this is an obstacle, this is uncomfortable, and you allow yourself to explore some of these like shadow side or darker emotions or whatever people like to call them. You realize that they're too just emotions. Like, it's not the end of the world to feel them. And then you expand to be able to feel like more pleasure, more fulfillment, more love, more connection, all these things. And also, as your capacity grows, you're able to like handle more. Like, things don't stress you out as much, things don't trigger you as much. You can make more money, you can be more successful. Like, you're open to receive so much more. And so it's literally, you can think of it as like this expansion that's going out in all directions. So you can't just go in one direction. Like, I think there's been sort of this, like, in the self-development world, a lot of like myths around like, just stay high vibration and everything's gonna work out. But that's kind of like a myth, because I don't think that the lower vibrations are bad. They're just part of the human experience. It's like when you go on a hike, you're gonna have like uphills and downhills and like scary bits next to the cliff, and like some parts are gonna be so hard and you're gonna be like, oh my gosh, I'm so out of shape, and then other parts are gonna feel easy, and then you have the view at the top or whatever. And it's this whole beautiful experience. It's not just all just downhill, like with a perfect view. It's, you're gonna have ups and downs, and that's like learning to fall in love with the story of your life. Because when we watch a movie, what if the movie was just like, I got the job, I got the boyfriend, I went to on the amazing trip, and like it was all good stuff? Like, no one would watch that movie. They'd be like, well, that was kind of boring. Like, nothing really happened. She just got all the stuff she wanted. There was no conflict, like
Yeah.
no obstacle to overcome. So it's like we're all living this amazing magical story, and it's like we have to fall in love with like the drama and the excitement and the multifacets of our story, you know?
And I think also for me, I've got to know myself more through that experience. It's like having a love affair with yourself. Would you agree with that?
Yes, and you're building intimacy with yourself and you're really getting to know like what you truly love and what you don't want and what you want and what feels good and what doesn't. And that's magical and it helps you fall in love with yourself more, but it also helps you like relate with other people in a more healthy way as well.
Yeah, and be inspiring to others. Now, I remember, and I can't remember exactly when, Kate, but I think it's about a year ago, and you shifted your perspective a little bit. So you'd been, I mean, you got me to read some manifestation books. I love manifestation books, and you shifted your perspective a little bit on manifestation at that point. I'm wondering where you're at with it now, what you would say about manifestation now.
I feel like manifestation is a little bit of an illusion because I feel like it's sold ever since like The Secret came out, it's sold as like you can like focus on this thing and you can have whatever you want. But I feel like it's a little bit like I think Marianne Williamson said it best when she talks a lot about um different like spiritual paths or whatever. And she was saying, like, it's kind of like giving God like a to do list and saying, like, this is all the stuff that I want you to do for me. Like, you know better than the universe, essentially,
Mhm.
like, I know what is best for me. And just what I personally found is yes, you can create whatever you want. And it's not even that it's just being focused. It's almost like goal setting and manifesting are very similar. I
Yeah.
think now that I've created so much very specific things in my life, like super out of the box. I created a business out of thin air, out of nothing. That's just my personal brand. It's just an expression of me and my passions. I literally go wherever I want at the drop of the hat. Like I manifest money like out of nowhere, it just like comes into my bank account like unexpected, like all the things they talk about in The Secret. Like I've done it all. But the reality is that just because you accomplish a goal or just because you get something that you want, it's not necessarily going to lead you to this magical place of like a fulfillment. Like this is the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, which I think that is very much with manifestation. We're really sold this idea if you can get what you want, you're going to be happy. And I truly believe that just like what I said, like we're living this story and it's unfolding and there's going to be like different chapters. And it's not like you get to like what I said before. It's not like you get to this point and then like all of a sudden it's like smooth sailing, like, oh my gosh, everything's magical and perfect. And there's contrast. Like even in the midst of everything being magical and perfect, you can still feel like the loneliness or the desire for more or the longing for something different. It's like it's this continual thing. So I think if you're thinking about manifesting, something that a few manifesting coaches talked about a lot in all my sort of like searching this, that I think is such a powerful point and powerful takeaway is that it's so important to not just think about what you want to manifest next, but to keep visioning deeper into the future. Because
Mhm.
the thing is when you get, and I think they didn't really say this, but what I feel in my journey is what's important about this step is because when you manifest that next thing, you're going to think like, oh my God, it's going to fix all my problems. But it's not, because you're going to want more. And because there's going to be new problems that now present themselves and new obstacles. So it's like you need to be constantly visioning out into the future, and also to be like loose, like I said at the very beginning, like loose with your desire, because also we can really beat ourselves up. We can say like, I'm doing all the right things, I'm visualizing every day, I'm meditating every day, I'm whatever, writing in my journal, I'm doing my beliefs, but I didn't get that one specific thing that I'm trying to manifest. So to be more open and just sort of let your story unfold more naturally, I have found is more, it's just more fulfilling and it's more enjoyable. than like this. Otherwise it feels kind of frantic, like this constant, like you're chasing this goal to try to get the thing. And it's like, sit back and enjoy like have right now and just enjoy this present moment, you know. And I believe that's kind of a demon in the manifestation story, is it's always like something in the future outside of you gonna be amazing, instead of just allowing yourself to stay present. One of the things that happens synonymously with the story I told at the very beginning was I started to really practice being more in the present moment. I just really enjoying and really like viscerally feeling all of the beauty in this present moment. And that has been the most, yeah,
Mhm.
of course I've accomplished all these goals, check, check, check on my list. But the best part of the journey has actually been to just be able to be present with myself. That has been the most fulfilling thing that has happened,
I
you
couldn't
know?
I couldn't agree more, Kate, because I've manifested loads of things that I thought I wanted, and then when I got them, I didn't want them. And so practicing presence, and you said the word fulfillment there. So the way I deal with it now is I have my dreams. Obviously, I've got borrow my belief. I want people to follow their dreams, but by practicing presence, it allows me to tune inside and not go after the thing that the commercial's telling me that I should want. It's like, and usually it's something that I'm quite afraid to want because the masses aren't doing it, which goes back to what you said, don't worry about what people think. Because we're unique, right? We're not all wanting the same thing. I manifested the big house and all the things that I thought I wanted, and I got there and I wasn't fulfilled. And the word is fulfilled, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, I think that we're sold in our society that outside material things are going to bring us fulfillment.
Yeah.
And that's another sort
Yeah.
of illusion, just like manifesting. It's sort of an illusion, you
Yeah.
know, this illusion of fulfillment.
That's what my book's all about. Checking in with your soul and seeing what your soul wants. So I have a question that I've been asking other guests. If you were to go back to the moment when things were the toughest, like a dark night of the soul moment before you kind of woke up to things, and you could speak to that version of you, what would you say?
I would probably say like everything that you're worrying about, like it really, even if it happens, it's not going to be that bad. And you can just let go of all of these worries about the future and worries about what could go wrong. And you can just start enjoying this present moment because none of those things have happened yet. And
All
you
the,
don't need to put your attention on them.
so all the things you're worried about still haven't happened.
Yeah,
And
a lot of them haven't, or if they happened, it wasn't that bad. I was like, oh, it happened, and everything's actually my life is still really amazing.
amazing. And what is it that you're up to now?
I am. I have a membership. I have a Paradise membership, and it's like a women's circle. We meet every week, and we practice being present, and we work on connecting with our soul, connecting with our desires, and we share. There's space for sharing and space for connection, which I think is so important. And I'm hosting retreats, mostly in Mexico, but I might have a retreat in Hawaii coming soon as well. I'm finalizing some details about that. So hosting some retreats, some healing retreats, some acro yoga retreats, some adventure retreats. So all the things that I love and feel passionate about. Um, and yeah, I just have a lot of ideas around really helping women step into their confidence, helping them step into feel their body, feel the beauty of their body, and yeah, live the life of their dreams, whatever that looks like. So I have a lot of little offerings that I'm offering here and there. They pop up every once in a while that encompass something around that, like little private getaways for women. So you can follow me at kateinparadise.com or on Instagram at Kate_in paradise, and you can see what's happening next. It's always changing.
Well, I think I was about 18 months following you, and I first came across you in the UK, and then I traveled to Mexico and met you, and then you mentored me in Mexico, and then I got a photo shoot by you. So I
Yes.
can't recommend Kate enough. And so they can find you on Instagram. And to close off, to say to anybody who's listening to this now, who's like a version of where we were in the past, or whatever their version is, whether it's what they want to start running or they want their own business or whatever it is, what would you say to them? What one bit of advice would you give?
It's possible. Like whatever you are desiring in your heart, that's actually, you can think of it instead of like a desire that's outside of you. You can think of it as a premonition that you're having,
Mm.
almost like a premonition of the future. Like it's going to happen, and you don't have to worry about how it's going to happen or when it's going to happen, but you can just bask in the knowing that it is going to happen. You can imagine it, you can enjoy like playing in that reality, knowing that it's just a matter of time before it unfolds. It's part of your story and it's meant to be.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Kate. It's been really good connecting with you. Thank you.
Yes, I love you, Joanne. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. I love you too.